as egregious as it gets. And let me tell you something else, too. I am not attaching any kind of aspersions like this to Urban Meyer, but this is why I was upset with the Urban Meyer quote. Because I knew some racist, no good, you know what, would use that as fodder and fuel to piggyback off of a quote like that to denigrate this kid in this way. This kid played 3 spectacular games, won a national championship. By the way, Skip, despite not looking good in some of those games he played in before ultimately getting benched in favor of J.T. Barrett, I'm sorry, Skip, what is Cardale Jones' record as a starter in big-time college football? I believe it is 11-0. The young brother is undefeated as a quarterback on a big-time college football level. And you talk about him this way, and you talk about Jamarcus Russell. Skip, what have I said about Jamarcus Russell? So we all know, and we're all out in the open about how fair I could be. I called him the Jabba the Hutt of the National Football League. He was fat. He was out of shape. He didn't prioritize his conditioning nor the importance of football, according to every player that I've spoken to who played with him as teammates. He stole money from the Oakland Raiders and as a result didn't deserve another chance to be in the league. And this is who you call Cardale Jones a poor man version of? What possible explanation, excuse, or anything that you could muster would justify such an incendiary quote like this? And so for folks out there that are listening to us talk about this right now, let me reiterate what I said. I hope the writer, Mr. McCann, for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, who I know does a damn good job, I hope he told the scout, you're racist as hell, or at least you sound there. I hope you told him that he's a coward for not attaching his name to such an incendiary quote. I hope somebody finds out who that no good slime ball of a scout is, so they could call him out on this kind of nonsense that he would attach that he would say about Cardale Jones without attaching his name to it, being a punk that he is, okay? I hope somebody does that. And in the meantime, while we sit up here and we look at a guy like Cardale Jones, who by all accounts has pretty much been a decent dude, particularly since his college career, went out there and won, played his butt off when it really, really counted, okay? And now he's going to the NFL draft. If there was ever an excuse for him to strike while the iron is hot, he should have done it last year after they won the national championship. That way he wouldn't have to go through all of this nonsense. But because he wanted to stay in school and be a team player and cultivate and develop his skills and rely on Urban Meyer and beyond to help him elevate his game and his quality of play. Look at what he gets in return. This is disgusting, man, and it speaks to what a lot of black folks have to go through, not just in sports, but in corporate America and beyond, because you're not just fighting the fight in terms of elevating your abilities to the ultimate level so you can receive the ultimate prizes. You're fighting innuendo, you're fighting stereotypes, you're fighting all of these kind of things that black folks and other minorities in this country historically have had to go through. And in the year 2016, we're still seeing this kind of garbage taking place. You know why we're seeing it? Because as things change, somehow they really don't change, do they?
And by the way, actually 2 scouts are quoted anonymously in this draft preview. So there are 2 of them
but
here.
only one scout said that.
Okay,
the
but
only
they
one
both
scout
had
said that.
incendiary quotes to me, and it sounds like both of them would be capable of using the N-word. They sound capable because these quotes start to smack of that.
Dad, I'm not going to say that. If you call Cardale Jones a poor man's Jamarcus Russell, to me, you're talking about his ability. I might not like it, but as a scout, you have a right to evaluate and dissect a guy's abilities, Skip. So I'm not going to take that first quote as in terms of anything racially negative. I'm not going to do that because you're talking about his football ability. That last quote about how, you know what, not the brightest cookie in the world, I worry about him when he gets money in his pocket. That is the problem. That quote is the problem. I have no problem. I might disagree, but I don't have any problem with anything else that was said about Jamarcus Russell. I'm sorry, about Cardale Jones. That last quote that I just read, that is a racist quote if ever there was one. And it's wrong. And I hope that writer, Mr. McCann, told the sorry, no good sleazeball of a scout that said that.
And again, Stephen A., you were correct. Cardale 11-0 in his career at Ohio State. Another Buckeye making waves today in Todd McShay's draft is Ezekiel Elliott. Should he go forward to Skip's Cowboys? Louis Riddick is going to join us, help break this one down for us. That's next here on First Take. Back here on First Take, Louis Riddick is joining us. We'll get to the draft in just a second. But Stephen A., there was one thing you wanted to address that we missed earlier.
The only thing I wanted to add is that if that was a black scout who may have said that to Mr. McCann out of Milwaukee, okay, he should be ashamed of himself because he should know how such an incendiary quote could potentially be interpreted and be sensitive enough to that. I sincerely doubt it was, but in case it was, I don't want to rule out the possibility that the anonymous scout may have happened to have been an African American. If he did that, he's just as wrong. Just want to say that.
Appreciate you making that clear. Let's stick with the draft subject here. Louis, Todd McShay released his mock draft 5.0 this morning, and he said the Cowboys are taking Ezekiel Elliott with the 4th pick after Jared Goff, Carson Wentz, and Jalen Ramsey. Now, you agree with this?
Yeah, I've been on this train for a while here, Molly, because of the fact that I understand that people like to advance the narrative that running backs have been devalued and that you can't take them in the top 10. But look, the NFL is about winning on third down, scoring points, and affecting third down. That's where really the money really gets filtered in the National Football League. The reason why running backs have been devalued, so to speak, is really it's a longevity issue. Okay, that's really the only reason why. And the fact that people have had some success finding running backs later on in the draft. But the fact of the matter is this: if you find one that can positively affect your offense on third down, running, passing, and blocking, which Ezekiel can do, especially when you're looking at the Dallas Cowboys, that look, Darren McFadden's a nice running back, Alfred Morris is a nice running back, they're not Ezekiel Elliott. You got to go ahead and take a chance on someone like this. Dallas has visions of seeing this guy in the same vein as they saw Emmitt Smith. And you know this is a guy who could also help Tony Romo and help take that offense to a whole new level. Now, with the issue now surrounding DeMarcus Lawrence being suspended, them not having pass rushers, you can see them taking Joey Bosa or taking some kind of edge rusher with the number 4 pick. But I said 2-3 months ago that this is a special kind of situation here with Ezekiel. His combine performance, both on the field and in interviews, was sterling. People could not rave about him enough. It wouldn't be a stretch at all to see them take him. It may be now, only because out of need that they need to maybe draft another position. But I think, and I've said all along, I said it just this week, I think they'll take him still.
Lawrence is suspended 4 games, correct?
That's right, at the beginning of next year.
Well, we think so. It might be an appeals process, but probably. Stephen A.
No, go ahead, Skip.
You
I
sure?
want to hear you and Louis talk about this. Yeah, I'll wait.
Okay.
I'll wait.
I have one question.
What's up, Lou? Good seeing you, baby.
Louis.
All right, man.
You good? All right.
I'm good.
All right.
It's my man on Sundays.
I covered Emmitt Smith's Cowboys, and I know a lot about Emmitt Smith. Are you hearing that that's what they see? They see the next Emmitt Smith, or they see some of Emmitt Smith and Ezekiel Elliott?
I'm hearing that is the projection as far as what kind of impact he could have on
maybe
that
an
offense
impact.
right now.
I don't see Emmitt as a player because Ezekiel goes about 6'1", 225. Emmitt was freakishly talented at 5'9", 205, and he ran a 4.6 40. But he had, as North Turner used to tell me, astonishing quickness in a confined space where you just couldn't get a hold of him. And running behind the dominating elephants that they had in their offensive line in the 90s, you couldn't find him either. So he was just hard to get a hold of and bring down, because when you finally found him, he was 5, 6, 7 yards in your secondary, and then with a football under his arm, he could fly. You know, he didn't run 4.6 with the ball under his arm. He seemed to run like 4.3 to me, because I never saw him caught from behind. So that's a rare find when you trade up from 21 to 17 to get Emmitt Smith, who's fallen all the way to 17. So I love Ezekiel, but I don't love him Emmitt Smith enough to back to your point, I'm ashamed to admit DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory are gone, and Stephen A. is about to unload on me for that. We're back to the old days when they used to call America's team South America's team, for all the wrong reasons. And I can't defend it because I'm pretty sure there's going to be no Greg Hardy this time unless they have to just cave in and try to bring him back. But I don't think that's going to happen. So to me, Joey Bosa is a screaming need pick where you just can't pass it up because you need it so desperately now, especially for the first 4 games. And Joey Bosa had some issue that cost him the first game in a suspension that I don't know enough about. Concerns me a little bit, but he's one who jumped off, and I only watch TV. I don't watch your coach's tape, but he jumped off my TV screen every time I watched him. He was unblockable by single blocks. That it took 2, and often 2 couldn't contain him because he is a relentless pass rusher. So I'm saying I'm good with that pick. I like Shaq Lawson a lot, and it might be sort of 51-49 between those two with the 4th pick. I love both of them, but now it's become a glaring need pick, and so Ezekiel's just like the ultimate luxury pick. You could get the triplets back together again. I get that, but man, I'm still Joey Bosa all day and all night.
I'm not. I never was. I'm a guy that I've thought about Kimdichie. I've thought about Shaq Lawson. I've liked both almost as much as I've liked Joey Bosa. Maybe I'm wrong with that, but that's how I felt. And Riddick, just so you know, when I think about the Dallas Cowboys, my position with Skip is that if you are uncertain about a definitive defensive lineman that can get it done, then why not go the other route of buffering up your secondary by getting somebody like Ramsey out of Florida State? Because this guy obviously would be immediately incorporated into the scheme of things. He'd be a starter. He'd be on the opposite corner of Scandrick in all likelihood, if I remember correctly. And as a result, you'd buffer your secondary so significantly that it would give your pass rushers, as suspect as they may be, even more time, a few more seconds, to get at a quarterback on a particular Sunday afternoon.
Hey, Stephen A., real quick, just real quick.
Yes.
McShay now has Jalen Ramsey going to San Diego at 3. So,
which is likely where he's going to go.
Okay.
From a mock perspective, he may not even be there.
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from. I'm just giving you insight into what I was thinking as to what they should be thinking about.
Sure.
Because Skip was of the mindset that, you know what, if I remember correctly, Skip, you didn't want them to take a quarterback.
No.
Because you want to evolve things around Tony Romo. So why move up in the draft, whatever. And I'm of the mindset if the offensive line, Lewis, is so buffed, if they're so big time, you got Darren McFadden, who had a decent year last year. You acquired Alfred Morris, who's no longer a Redskin. So if you have those 2 guys in your offensive line, it's everything everybody ballyhoos them to be. Why do you need another running back when you have so many other needs on the defensive line, in the secondary, etc., that you need to address?
Well, I would answer you by saying this. The NFL is always about future performance projection, and just because Darren gave you that last year, look, Darren, they got lightning in a bottle as far as Darren and his durability last year. He's never proven that before, so I don't think you can bank on that going forward. Alfred Morris is a very one-dimensional 2-down player that on 3rd down, that's why he's not in Washington anymore now. Now, that being said, though, Stephen, I understand, look, on defense, they need to beef up the pass. They have no one to play. They have no one to rush the passer, and they can use another corner because Mo Claiborne has never been really good enough. Brandon Carr was overpaid. Orlando Scandrick gets hurt a lot, and Byron Jones is going to play safety. So they have no one out there on the Autobahn, as I like to call it, outside the numbers, to cover anybody right now. But I know this, whoever they pick, he better be clean. He better be someone, and by clean I mean this, there better be no concerns about him on or off the field. Because they've messed up too many things already. So there's a number of different things right now that could, and Ezekiel Elliott fits that bill. He fits the bill as, look, I know it may look like a luxury pick from the outside, and that we could all go ahead and ride with McFadden and Alfred Morris and lean on this offensive line. I just know this. I know this for a fact. They have done a lot of work on Ezekiel Elliott. A lot of work. And until yesterday, I would have bet whatever you wanted to bet on the fact that they were going to take Ezekiel Elliott. That may now be thrown up in the air because you're right. Now it's about need. Now it's about, look, I don't even know if we can line up with enough pass rushers to get after it the first quarter of the season. So it may change everything.
But let's get back to what you're saying about Ezekiel Elliott. I like him. I thought he did a damn good job at Ohio State. He was a stud. We know that. I definitely think they lost the game against Michigan State because he wasn't given the ball more. And the following week, they gave him the ball, and you saw what they did against Michigan. I guess what I'm saying to you is this. When you talk about a running back in the top 5, from an historical perspective, when has that worked? And when you look at Dallas's offensive line, again, as buffed as it is, if you didn't have those other needs, then I'm saying take Ezekiel Elliott all day. But because you have so many other needs that are incredibly paramount in the grand scheme of things, to me, you could afford to pass on Ezekiel to address other needs that are just as substantive as opposed to going all in on Ezekiel Elliott when you've got so many question marks over that way.
Which ultimately may be exactly what they do.
Yeah.
You're right. It ultimately may be that. And I'll say this, when you look at history and you look at how many running backs have really panned out when you're talking about drafting them this high, I like to use that kind of as maybe as a bit of a reference point, but I am always all about looking at everything in its own individual context, especially when you're projecting for the future. Because you know what, a lot of times you want to know what history will do for people in the scouting world. It kind of provides them a little bit more confirmation bias. If they didn't want to do it in the first place, they'll say, well, look, it never worked out all these other times. Yep. And they don't even really care about their own situation. They just kind of look at the past and say, look, I need something to justify what I'm doing. That's happening right now across the National Football League. People are looking for reasons to justify why to do something or not to do something. And you can't ignore history. And I'm not saying that Ezekiel Elliott is Adrian Peterson. I'm not saying he's one of those kind of transcendent, franchise-changing running backs. I'm just saying that there's a whole lot of factors that go into picking a player this high, and Dallas cannot afford to miss on the field or off the field with this pick. Because right now, their willingness to take chances with guys who have any kind of question off the field has got them in this situation.
Yeah, it's not panning out.
That's right.
So we thought Zeke was a lock, but now with the DeMarcus Lawrence news, that could change. I could sit here and talk draft all day with you, but we have to take a quick break, but you will join us again later. We have a new article on ESPN Magazine by Wright Thompson entitled The Secret History of Tiger Woods, which includes some very interesting comments from one Michael Jordan. We'll break this piece down when we come back. Trying to be dominant and then have it suddenly end. I don't know if he's happy about that or sad about that. I think he's tired. I think he really wishes he could retire, but he doesn't know how to do it yet. And I don't think he wants to leave it where it is right now. If he could win a major and walk away, he would, I think. The thing is, I love him so much that I can't tell him, you're not going to be great again. Skip, how do you feel about Tiger after reading this article?
Oh, man. Stephen A., we've talked about Tiger Woods. We talked about a lot of these themes that Wright Thompson dealt with in this terrific piece. I guess I'm supposed to feel sorry for Tiger, but I got to be honest, I don't. I don't feel 1 ounce of sympathy after reading what came off to me as a very sad portrait of a very lonely man who can't come to grips with the fact that it's over for him being a dominant golfer. Can't accept it, can't live with it just yet. And those are some poignant quotes from Michael Jordan, who still obviously loves the man he calls T-Dub, Tiger Woods. And a major theme in Wright's piece is one that we've discussed several times on the show, that after Tiger lost his father, he lost his only confidant. He lost his shield. He lost his safe haven. He lost the man who sort of engineered Tiger Woods, if you will, who built and constantly fueled Tiger's invincible confidence. And I'm going to say it again, for those 3 years in there, 99, 2000, 2001, Tiger Woods dominated this sport the way no one, I believe, will ever again dominate it. And then, as we know, it all suddenly fell apart. And the other theme here is that Tiger's described in the piece as this socially awkward nerd, as he sort of came into being as the Tiger Woods we all knew from a distance. And this socially awkward nerd wanted to be his father ultimately. And after he lost his father, he wanted to be the Earl Woods, who became Earl was obviously a career military man who fought 2 tours of duty in Vietnam. So Tiger wanted to be, again, as we've talked about many times on the show, a Navy SEAL. And in doing so, he went through all kinds of drills with the Navy SEALs, and he wrecked his body along the way. again, we think he tore his ACL in some kind of maneuver with the Navy SEALs. And then he wanted to become Earl Woods' father, to the point that, like Earl, who was a rampant womanizer by many accounts, Tiger became a rampant womanizer through that period of his life. And a couple of last great anecdotes that Wright Thompson provided. The younger Tiger Woods once went to a nightclub with Derek Jeter and Michael Jordan. Now, that's some company at a nightclub. And as Derek and Michael were chatting up some of the more beautiful women at the nightclub, Tiger asked them, how do you talk to girls? How do you talk to girls? Tiger Woods asked them. And Michael looked at Tiger and said, you just tell them you're Tiger Woods. You'll be good after that. You know, like, that's all you need to say. That'll break the ice, right? And then the final anecdote that sort of sticks with me is Tiger so admired the Navy SEALs, and again, wanted so badly to become one. And so after going through maneuvers with them by day, they went to dinner at night at a restaurant. And the check came, and there was silence at the table as the SEALs expected Tiger Woods, who's got a few bucks, to pick up the check. Silence. And finally, one of the SEALs said, according to Wright, we'll have separate checks. And the waitress was just sort of dumbfounded for a second and then turned and walked away. And there's some scathing quotes from one of the SEALs who just said, weird dude, you know, we were out on Tiger after that. And that's how it kind of leaves me flat reading this piece. I'm just out on Tiger Woods. I loved watching him. I miss him. I got no sympathy for him.
Well, that last part is what garners the least amount of sympathy more than anything else. You admire these men who obviously represent our country in a phenomenal fashion. You admire all the things that they endure, what they put themselves through in order to be elite in what they do. You train with them. You ask them out to dinner. They come out to dinner with you, and then you're looking for others to pick up the check. When you're worth at least $500 million.
Yep.
That's just bad and pathetic on so many levels. It doesn't warrant any sympathy whatsoever. It's inexcusable. Okay, it's inexcusable. With that being said, I'm very, very surprised, and I haven't finished reading the entire piece, Skip. I've gone through, I guess, half of it. I will tell you that none of it really surprises me. The part about him being out with Michael Jordan and Derek Jeter, that doesn't surprise me at all, because, you know, I don't care how bad you are. You ain't Derek Jeter and you ain't Michael Jordan.
Yep.
I don't care who you are. You know, these brothers are on another level. But having said all of that, let's be clear about something. What really is going on here is not about Tiger Woods struggling with not being the elite golfer anymore. What's really going on here is that not being the elite golfer eradicates the one thing he had to lean on to gloss over all of his other deficiencies. And now you have nothing to do that. That's what's really going on here. Tiger Woods, as I've said on many occasions, wasn't just trying to be an elite golfer. He was trying to be that iconic figure, comparable, if not one who, dare I say, usurped the greatness of a Michael Jordan in terms of not just his performance on the field of play, but also as somebody you wanted to come into your home. He was Madison Avenue. He was the guy that white, black, Hispanic, Catholic, Jewish, whomever would want come into their home to sit down for dinner with them, or who a father would want to marry his daughter, or whatever. These were the kind of images he adroitly went about the position of manufacturing and then disseminating to the masses.
Yep.
And in 2009 and Thanksgiving, all of that was shattered. And because of it, he has no place to hide. So he's got his private jet and his private yachts and it's very nondescript with the license plates that give no indication whatsoever of who exactly it owns the thing. And, you know, you got Jordan and his jet that's painted in Carolina blue with 23-6 on it and what have you. The 6 for the titles, the 23 was his jersey number. You got Jack Nicklaus with his NJ1 or whatever it was on his, for his plane. You got all of this stuff going on. You didn't know any of that about Tiger Woods because Tiger Woods wanted to operate in the dark. He wanted to move slickly and slyly through life where he projected a certain image and how he lived was completely different and no one knew anything. That's what he wanted. And once it became exposed, once he became exposed, he's open and he can't take it. Yeah. Because now everyone's looking at him. And if it was just about you're old and injuries have beaten you down and father time and age and attrition have beaten you down and you can no longer play golf, but we still love you. You're still special. You're still Tiger. Tiger Woods would be just fine. Yep. It's the fact that he's not because people don't look at him that way and don't have the level of love and affection for him that they once had, at least in his mind. No. It's that combined with his golf game not being able to protect him from that shrapnel of cynicism. That is what has Tiger Woods in this state. Yep. Jordan don't have to worry about that. I agree. Jeter don't have to worry about that because everybody loves them. Yeah. Everybody don't love Tiger no more.
I've told you before that so much animosity was generated and then directed back at Tiger because he and his people had done an almost miraculous job of selling him, portraying him as the perfect husband and the perfect father as his daughter and son were born. And then for this to come crashing down, and I always refer to my mom here, she was such a huge Tiger fan, and it just shook her at her foundation to think, I was duped.
It was a lie.
Yeah, it was a lie. Yeah.
Well, here's the reality. The people who carefully crafted and manufactured or facilitated manufacturing the image that Tiger Woods had, let's call them what they are. They're Hall of Fame liars. Yep. That's who they are.
I agree.
The difference is Tiger is the one that has to bear the consequences. So let this be a lesson to professional athletes. Being private and real is entirely different than being private and fake. Michael Jordan is a lot of things. He ain't fake. Derek Jeter's a lot of things. Yeah. He ain't fake. No. Tiger Woods, in the eyes of a lot of American folks, he's fake. And those people who he leaves responsible for crafting his image, although they did their job, they're professional liars. They're Hall of Fame liars. That's what they are.
And I know money isn't everything, but on the bright side, he earned $50 million last year, 9th highest paid athlete, and is reportedly worth, according to Forbes, $700 million.
Money can't buy your love.
I was just going to say, or happiness.
In most cases.
Nope, not at all. Sam Bradford, he got paid, but he's reportedly not happy with the Eagles right now. They just moved up in the draft to likely take a quarterback, but did they give up too much? Louis Riddick back at the desk to join us for that debate. Stay here. We have a very special guest with us now, Memphis quarterback Paxton Lynch. He tied an FBS record with over 7 TDs. He balled against SMU. Paxton, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, before we get into it, Stephen A., you always say that you're the most GQ on the set. Paxton just took over.
Really?
Yeah,
really?
He did. You didn't see the full get-up.
He's entitled to believe that. I mean, I definitely think it's important that a young lad such as himself has a lot of confidence. You look great. You're an athlete. You're about to get picked up in the NFL draft. You'll probably be a big-time quarterback. I wish you nothing but the best. But when it comes to the GQ, my brother, come on now.
I hope someday you can maybe pass the torch down to me. Then.
Oh,
maybe someday.
Good answer. Good answer.
Maybe someday. Yeah. Respect your elders. Respect your elders.
Paxton, make a case why a team should draft you.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good players, obviously, in this draft, quarterback-wise, with Carson and Jared. I mean, they've done some very impressive stuff where they are. And I know Carson didn't really get looked at that much because he went to a small school, but what he's getting the recognition he's getting, he deserves, in my opinion. But I think we're obviously all good players, and we all have our own unique style of play. I think that I'm very athletic, I'm very big, but then I can also stand in the pocket and throw the ball. I have good arm strength, in my opinion. So, I think we all bring our own unique attributes to the table, and it's kind of whatever a team wants, that's what they're going to get.
Stephen A.
Paxton, what happened? You lost 3 straight. Temple, I forgot the other 2, and then you lost in the SC, the bowl game against Auburn.
Right.
Lost 4 or 5, lost 3 straight. What happened during that period, and how much of an impact do you believe it's had on your stock approaching the NFL draft?
Honestly, I think that it's had a very big impact on my draft stock, especially the last game against Auburn. But I know whenever we lost to Navy, Houston, and Temple, just kind of bam, 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 and we were really high. We were like 8-0 or something like that. And after we lost to Navy, we were like, we could still do something special here at Memphis. That was a program that never really won games. So we still were going out to win those games, and we lost to Houston, and that one really hurt because we were up by 20 points like 3 times in that game. We lost that game, and then that one kind of just rolled over into Temple, and Temple pretty much got after us pretty well. And then we had that game against SMU where we just put it on them. And then when we played Auburn, it was a little tougher, being that Coach Fuente left and went to Virginia Tech. So I know a lot of that coaching staff didn't want to leave before the bowl game, but they kind of had no choice. So, and I'm not holding anything against any of those guys because they deserve that. Because we came in together, and now we're all getting our own opportunities. So I'm proud of those guys, getting that opportunity. So it was rough losing your head coach and one of your play callers, and someone that helps you prepare and all that. And as smart as he was and how much he helped me, it was pretty rough, playing that game without him. And when you only throw for 100 yards or something like that in your last game, people are gonna say some stuff about it now. Like if I had played Auburn mid-season and then Ole Miss the last game and had the same result, it would be talked about different, obviously.
Gotcha.
So your dad's 6'5". You grew up in a small town just north of Orlando, yet you did not play basketball at all as you grew towards 6'7". Why was that?
My parents tried to get me to play when I was a kid, like in the YMCA league, and I got like film of it. Me and my brother like just walking and just giving the ball to each other like over kids' heads and stuff. And I don't know, it was just really like never fun to me. I just never really loved it. Yeah, like my dad, obviously, and mom loved playing it, but I just was kind of baseball, football all the time. Like Saturday mornings, I'd Pop Warner game, and then Saturday afternoon I'd go play baseball. So,
really?
Yeah, that's how I kind of grew up.
Wow. But you consider yourself very athletic for your position,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
So I assume you could have been a pretty good basketball player.
Yeah, I guess we'll never know. I know my high school basketball coach was the athletic director. So he was always trying to get me to play, but me and my brother were just, never into it.
Interesting.
Looks like things turned out all right with football.
Yeah.
I got one more question I want to ask you, Paxton, because one of the things, we don't know this, and I think it's fair to make sure we present this question to you. One of the things, whether it's Todd McShay or Mel Kiper projecting that you'll go 37th to the 49ers, obviously when we hear about Carson Wentz, we hear about Jared Goff, they'll possibly go 1 and 2. You're not in that equation. One of the reasons they use that excuse is because from what we're hearing based on the reports, when you were interviewed, the interview didn't go so great. Can you talk to me about what the interview process has been like for you, and how do you feel about it approaching the NFL draft?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we at the Combine, you go through a bunch of interviews. I know I had like 10 or 12. I had 2 the first night and like 10 the second night. And the feedback I had got from all the coaches was that I did well. So whenever I heard, that on Twitter or whatever it was on, I was a little confused by it, because the feedback I got from all the coaches was that I did well, and I didn't feel like I struggled in any of those. But, whatever was said was said. I've heard, stuff that the teams that like you will say the worst stuff about you, hoping that they can pick you like later. And I don't know how true that is, obviously, because I've never been through this, but, I've heard stuff like that. But, I've had 10 or 11 these 30 visits where you go and visit the team. So I didn't do too bad in the combine interviews, obviously, if they wanted to bring me in again to talk to me. So I didn't think I did that bad, but I had never been in something like that before, where you go into a room and it's coaches, GMs, and stuff like that, and you got to, impress those guys. So that was the first time for me, but I thought I handled it well, and I was prepared.
Intense for sure. I'm sure you held your own. Paxton, we appreciate you. Enjoy next week with your friends and family. Such a special time, and we look forward to watching you at the next level.
All the best.
Thank you.
Another quarterback in this year's draft, Cardale Jones, has been catching a lot of flack lately. Now some are calling him a poor man's Jamarcus Russell. So disrespectful, in the words of Stephen A. Be sure you stay tuned for this discussion. That's next.
Well, then you gotta put your back into it.
Back to the NFL, though. The Eagles made waves Wednesday, making a trade with the Browns for the #2 overall pick in this year's NFL draft. The Browns will get the Eagles' 2016 first-round pick, #8 overall, and their 3rd and 4th round picks this year. They also get the Eagles' 2017 first-rounder and their 2018 second-rounder. Did you get all that? The Eagles will get the Browns' #2 overall pick this year and their 2017 4th-round pick. Louis Riddick still here with us. Thank you for joining us again. Did they give up too much?
It remains to be seen if they have. Look, when you're making an investment in the quarterback position, really after the fact, immediately after the fact of making the trade, it's not the time really to assess whether or not they gave up too much. This will play itself out down the road. You can tell what Philadelphia is trying to do is they're trying to recreate 1999 again. They're trying to recreate Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb type of dynamic here. And I know it looks like a lot. Look, to give up your 3 and your 4 when you already don't have a 2 this year, and then give up a future 1 and a future 2, that's a lot. That really goes against protocol. I know how those guys think and how they value draft picks in Philadelphia, having worked there for a while. But I also know this, the quarterback position right now, they've been piecemealing it together recently. For a while, ever since Donovan hit his slide, the quarterback position has never been settled there. And I know how Jeffrey feels about that. And he wants to find a guy, surround him with everything that he needs to make him successful, starting with a head coach that kind of resembles what he was used to back in '99 with Andy Reid. So he's got that in Doug Peterson. He has Frank Reich. He has John DeFilippo. And that's really that's where you can tell where they're concentrating their assets here. I know they want Carson Wentz, and if he falls to them, and then in a year or 2 or however many years it is that he ultimately winds up sitting, he winds up being a guy that can recreate what Donovan did, which is multiple NFC title game appearances, a Super Bowl appearance, multiple Pro Bowl appearances, then it's more than worth it. If it doesn't turn out to be something along those lines, then we'll be sitting here talking about it and tearing them apart. They understand that. They're willing to take the risk. They're willing to project the future and kind of gamble this way. I commend them for it.
Okay, but what if the Rams now rethink and think, boy, if the Eagles spent that much to move to 2, maybe we should rethink Carson Wentz?
Well, if they do that, then the Rams need to rethink how they have their scouting department constituted. Because if you're starting to now think, based on what they spent to get up to #2, that they may have made a mistake in their judgment on who they want, then you probably don't really need to be in the business of picking players anyway. Okay?
It's a little shaky.
Exactly. Yeah. So they need to know who they want. Look, if you start moving up here, I believe that the Rams already do know who they want. I believe that Philly does believe that they're going to get the guy that they want. I don't really think in order to do away with these kind of assets that you are really sitting there going, well, I can just take one or the other, as Howie said, chocolate or vanilla or whatever kind of analogy he used, that's what it's like. I think you definitely have your eye on a certain player, and you believe wholeheartedly that that player is going to be there.
Well, that's my whole thing, and that's where I have. It's like a 2-part question for me, Louis, for you, because on one hand, I'm thinking you gave up an additional 1st, 2nd, a 3rd, and a 4th, okay? And you're doing so for a quarterback either you're not sure you're going to get or you're not sure you want. So you're saying to me that the Eagles did this because they're pretty certain they're going to get the guy they want? Is that what you're saying? They're pretty certain they're going to get the guy they want?
I would believe that they feel as though they're going to get the guy that you want. I'd have a hard time believing. And maybe Howie's telling the truth when he says, look, I could care less. Well, not could care less, but I'll deal with either one. But I believe that they feel it's going to fall the way they want.
Now, here's the tricky part, too, to my question. Carson Wentz, Jared Goff. They may go 1 or 2 in this draft. But are they going 1 or 2 because of the draft and because this is the year and they're who's available and that's all we've got, so we got to take one of them? Or do you look at them and our NFL aficionados looking at them and saying these guys are legit 1-2 quality picks.
No, this is
in an NFL draft.
This is
what is being said about them?
This is a supply-demand driven type of deal this year. People need quarterbacks. These teams, when you look at the Rams feel internally, obviously, that the thing that has kept them from really being a contender in the NFC West and making moves in that division in particular, and then in the NFC conference overall, and the NFC overall, is the fact that they haven't been able to get that move right, that position right. And they had to go all in. On top of the fact that you're going to L.A., you need to generate excitement. You need to give people hope. A lot of moves in the NFL are dictated, Stephen A., you know, by selling hope in the offseason. So they needed to do it.
So they need to do it. They need to do it. They need to give the city of Los Angeles hope, but they still keep Jeff Fisher, who's missed the playoffs 15 times in 21 years.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. Absolutely. But you know what? These guys are all getting pushed up because, I mean, how many times do you talk about it on this show? Do you talk about it on SportsCenter, Insiders, whatever it is? It's a quarterback-driven league. It's a The NFL teams hear the same thing. They're talking the same thing because you know what? You know what a quarterback gives you also? A quarterback gives you kind of like some leeway to maybe have some misses at other parts of the other 52 guys on your roster. If you have a quarterback, at least you can say, well, you know, we've taken care of that. We just need to tweak this, tweak that, tweak this. But if you don't have a quarterback, I'm telling you, it messes with team builders' minds, man.
You're right.
It really does.
You're right.
Despite what like Denver did this past year, right? Despite what Denver did, where the rest of their 52-man roster, they had airtight, and they were able to carry Peyton Manning through one of his worst seasons of his career. Teams don't want to believe you can do it that way. I've got to have a quarterback, because if I don't, everything else gets messed up. And that's not true, but that's what's happening.
But
that's why these guys are just floating right up to the top.
In the first round, picking a quarterback is a 50-50 proposition on hit and miss.
And I'll tell you what, Skip, I'll say this about that. If you let the NFL tell it, it's because those players are just 50-50 because, look, we're in the NFL. And if we're the best coaches and teachers in the world, we wouldn't be here. They don't ever think it's them.
Yeah.
When you talk about this bust rate, it's always about the player just wasn't able to handle the big time.
Yeah.
You know how many organizations have ruined NFL quarterbacks?
Yeah, that's true.
Guys,
I mean, that's just the way it goes.
I'm sorry to cut you off. We have to go to break. No quarterback, no hope. You are fantastic. Thank you so much for this insight. Hope to talk to you soon. More First Take after the break. Skip, do you give Dallas or Houston any shot tonight now that they're back at home in their respective games?
If Steph does not play, I give Houston the better shot, Stephen A., to rise up and just pride alone to win one game at home against Golden State.
I believe Golden State will sweep this series, but if the Rockets are to win one game, it will be tonight.
Got it. Yep.
It looks like McGregor might be back in UFC 200. I'm looking here on ESPN.com, by the way.
Well, no,
he's unretired.
Dana and them are concentrating on John Jones. As far as they're concerned, hey, that's not a foregone conclusion that McGregor's going to fight this fight.
All right, we'll see. Gentlemen, we'll keep you posted. Thank you, guys. We'll see you all tomorrow. Have a great night.